I lost almost half of my savings in just 1 month. All because I thought investing in the stock market was the fastest way to get rich. The biggest lesson I've learned as a college student is this: investing in the stock market is not about getting rich overnight. It's about discipline, patience, and learning how money really works. My name is Mason. I'm a 22-year-old finance major at Michigan State University in East Lansing, Michigan. I'm the kind of student who spends more time in the library than in the cafeteria, the kind who actually enjoys staring at spreadsheets and case studies about banks. Ever since I was a kid, I dreamed of working on Wall Street, maybe at an investment bank or a big financial firm. I grew up reading about Warren Buffett and hearing my professors talk about compound interest as if it were magic. I'm lucky in one sense. My family is financially stable. My parents own a small but successful construction business in our hometown. So, unlike many of my friends, I don't carry a heavy burden of student loans. That privilege gave me room to experiment with money, and sometimes to make mistakes that hurt, but not enough to destroy me. This story is about how I took $500 in my bank account and decided to try investing in the stock market. What happened after changed the way I view money forever. It all started on a quiet Wednesday afternoon at the MSU main library. The sun was setting outside the tall glass windows, casting a golden glow on the desks. Students around me were either typing frantically or dozing off over their textbooks. I had my laptop open, pretending to work on a research paper about risk management, but my mind was elsewhere. Out of curiosity, I logged into my checking account. After paying rent, food, and a couple of nights out with friends, I noticed something surprising. I still had about $500 sitting there. For a broke college student, $500 felt like treasure. I leaned back in my chair and thought, what if I don't just let this money sit there? What if I try to grow it? That one thought lit a spark. I opened a new tab, typed "How to Invest as a Student" into Google, and suddenly I was pulled into a rabbit hole of articles, ads, and YouTube videos promising incredible returns. Everywhere I looked, people seemed to be making fortunes from stocks. One ad said, "Turn $100 into $1,000 in just weeks." Another YouTube influencer showed screenshots of his trading account, bragging about doubling his money on Tesla. On Reddit, college students were posting memes about diamond hands and becoming millionaires before graduation. I was hooked. Without thinking much, I downloaded a trading app, deposited my $500, and picked a few stocks I'd heard about on social media. Companies like Tesla, GameStop, and some biotech startup I barely understood. At that moment, I imagined my future self, Mason, the genius student investor, making thousands of dollars before even graduating. I thought about walking across campus in a sharp suit, telling people how I'd turned pocket money into an empire. And for the first week, it actually worked. One of my stocks went up 15% and I made about $60 in profit. I felt unstoppable, but then the market turned. Slowly at first, then brutally. My biotech stock crashed overnight. Tesla dipped hard. Within a month, my $500 shrank to $280. I felt stupid. I had been so confident, but in reality, I had no idea what I was doing. That loss was painful, but it forced me to reflect. I began to see the truth. As a student, my money was limited. Losing even a few $100s hurt. My knowledge was shallow. I knew theory from my classes, but I didn't understand the psychology of the market. Yet, I also had one major advantage: time. If I started early, even with small amounts, compound interest could work for me in ways it never could for someone starting in their 30s. I realized the question wasn't, should students invest, but rather, how should students invest? I stopped chasing hot tips on Reddit and started spending more time learning. I read books like The Intelligent Investor and followed financial news with a more critical eye. I also began to appreciate the concept of compound interest. I ran calculations. If I invested just $50 a month in an S&P 500 index fund starting at age 22, by the time I was 60, I could potentially have hundreds of thousands of dollars. That blew my mind. It wasn't about turning $500 into $5,000 overnight. It was about turning small, consistent contributions into life-changing wealth over decades. I also started practicing discipline. Instead of throwing money at random stocks, I set up automatic contributions. Even if it was just $20 a week, it built a habit. The more I invested, the more I discovered the darker side of the market. It can feel like gambling. I watched some classmates treat Robinhood like a casino. They bragged when they won and disappeared when they lost. Emotions rule everything. When markets dipped, I panicked. My heart raced every time my phone buzzed with a stock alert. Real-life pressures are real. Even though I didn't have big student loans, I saw my friends who did. For them, losing money wasn't just painful, it was dangerous. These experiences taught me that investing is not just about numbers. It's about psychology, patience, and knowing your own limits. Eventually, I came to a balanced approach that worked for me. Start small. I invest $10, $50 a month instead of betting everything at once. Diversify safely. I put most of my money into index funds like the S&P 500 rather than risky single stocks. Keep an emergency fund. Before investing, I make sure I have at least some cash set aside for unexpected expenses. Focus on learning. I treat every dollar invested as a tuition fee for real-world financial education. This shift in mindset turned investing from a stressful gamble into a steady, meaningful habit. Now, as I prepare to graduate from Michigan State, I look back at that $500 and smile. I didn't become rich overnight. In fact, I lost money at first, but the lessons I learned were worth far more than the dollars I lost. So here's my message. If you're a student, investing in the stock market can be one of the most valuable experiences of your life. But don't see it as a shortcut to wealth. See it as an investment in knowledge, discipline, and your future. If you treat every mistake as a lesson and every dollar as a seed, you'll thank yourself years down the road. Because in the end, it's not about turning $500 into $5,000 in a semester. It's about turning small beginnings into lifelong financial freedom. If Mason's story made you think twice about investing as a student, hit that like button and share this video with a friend who needs to hear it. I'd love to know your thoughts. Would you invest your first $500 or save it for later? Drop a comment below. And if you want more real student money stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell.